Hello everyone, welcome to Code Spot, and today we'll be seeing CSS tutorial for beginners. In my previous tutorial, we learned one of the basic fundamental languages for web development, which is HTML tutorial for beginners. In today's video, we're going to be seeing how to make that website beautiful using CSS. So, the prerequisites for this tutorial is to know basics in HTML. You don't need to know any advanced concepts, but you need to know some basics in HTML. So if you're completely new to web development, I would highly recommend you to watch my HTML tutorial for beginners video first and then come to this video. I will mention all the links in the description box below and check it out. CSS stands for Cascading Style Sheets. It describes the look and formatting of a web page. Prior to CSS, all the presentational attributes of HTML would be defined in the HTML tags itself. So as the programs grew bigger and complex, the program complexity grew higher as well. Repetitive styles started growing more and more, so it was very hard, very long, and very expensive to maintain such things. So then CSS was introduced by the World Wide Web Consortium, shortly known as W3C. Now CSS3 is the latest version of CSS. That is what we're going to be learning today. Now let's get started. To demonstrate this, I'm going to use an application called Brackets. Brackets is a code editor which helps you to code programs in HTML, CSS, JavaScript, etc. But you are welcome to use Notepad, it would work just fine. I'm going to create a new file for the HTML because you first need a HTML file. On that HTML file, you're going to link a CSS file. That's how it works. So you need the raw HTML file. So first I'm going to create a HTML file here. So to create a HTML file, you need to create a new file and save it. Control S and give index.html. You can give any name, but you need to mention the .html extension for HTML programs. Save it. Now for HTML, you would basically start with HTML head and body tags. Basic h1 tag. Now, there are three ways on how you can use CSS. The first one is inline styles, the second one is embedded styles, and the third one is external style sheets. So we'll see one by one. The first one we're going to be seeing is the inline styles. The inline style is something that you would include within the tag. Suppose in H1 I want to say the color as red. I will say style is equal to color : red. So I will come about how you declare CSS properties, but right now you can include CSS right inside the tag using an attribute called style. This is called as inline style sheets. Now let me use the live preview option right here to show you the output as we code. It's kind of a live preview option. As you can see, it is red. If I change this to green, you can see the color is now green. But this is considered to be bad practice because presentation is CSS. HTML is the content. So if you are including the presentation inside the tags, it is more like presentation and the content getting mixed up, which we don't want. It is very hard to maintain later. So this is not a recommended practice at all. But just for your information, just know this kind of styles exist, but it's not advisable to use this kind of format. The next one is the embedded style sheet. So I'll remove this inline style sheet, and the embedded style sheet is something you can give styles inside the head. I can give style. In CSS, we will first declare the tag that we want. We'll start with an opening parenthesis, curly parenthesis, and then we'll give the property. And see, you can see the live output here. So again this has its own disadvantage as well, because you have created index.html. So this style would be applicable only for your index.html. If you have any other files, you cannot link these styles to them. For that, I'm going to create a new file called style.css. I'm going to save this as style.css. Again, you can have any name, but you need to use the .css extension. And here I'll give the same format, color red. Now you can see nothing changes the live preview option. That is because inside the head tag, we haven't linked the CSS file to our index.html file. So in order to link it, we'll use a tag called link. RDL is equal to style sheet. href is equal to, style.css. And as soon as I give that link, you can see the styles are applied. Alright, now what if all the three types of style is available in a HTML file? Telling different colors for the h1 tag, for example. Then which one would be having the highest priority? Let's find out. So I would give an inline HTML saying the color green. Oops, I'll just remove this. First, I will give an embedded style sheet. I'll give the style tag and I will say h1 color green. Now, as you can see, this takes a precedence. In style.css, I have given the color as red, but in the embedded style sheet, I have given the color as green. So if you have both the things linked and you have difference in the styles, the embedded takes the most priority. Now let's see if you have an inline style sheet. So here I give style is equal to color, I would say brown. Then brown takes the highest priority. So the first priority comes to the inline HTML, the second one goes to the embedded, and the last one goes to the external linked HTML. Alright, now we'll talk about CSS syntax. Let's go to the CSS style.css file. I'll remove all the embedded and inline style sheet and index.html. When we go to style.css, the first thing is we need to give the selector. Selector is nothing but the one that is going to be affected by our action. Like here I have given the h1 tag. So whatever the properties or the rules that I give for the presentation will be applied to the h1 tag. Say I have a p tag here and I say this is a paragraph. This will not be having any changes. The color red rule is not applied to the paragraph. It is applied only to the h1 tag because that is the selector. Universal selector. I'm going to delete this. I'll say star. Star is called the universal selector that is applied to the entire paragraph. So now here if I say color is red, then it is applied to the entire document. But this is a default document. Suppose if I say h1 is equal to color green, then that will be changed. So this will, whatever you give inside this would be like the default rules or settings. Let's move on. So this is one type of selector. The next type we are going to be seeing is the next type is the element type selector. In that you give the element name like h1. You can also have p tag and I can say font size 30 pixels. So here I use p as the selector. The next selector that we'll be seeing is an ID selector. Suppose you have 3 paragraphs. So you have 3 paragraphs. but you don't want the style to be applied to all the 3 paragraphs. You just want to apply it for, say, paragraph 1. You don't want the other paragraphs to have the size 30 pixels. So in order to specifically mention that one paragraph, you can use the tag called ID. So I would give here ID as para 1. Now I save it, and instead of giving it as P, instead of giving the style for all the paragraph tags, I can say hashtag para 1. So the paragraph 1 alone is affected by the style. So if you want to mention an ID, you need to start with a hashtag. That is how the CSS will know you are trying to mention an ID. The next that we are going to be seeing is class selectors. So you have a set of paragraph. I'll remove this ID. And you have another set of paragraphs under another heading. You want the paragraphs under heading 2 to have different color. So you can give them under a class. So you can have an attribute called class, and you can give some class name, say head 2, and everything that belongs to this class will have the same name. I can have any paragraph tag with this name, or a h1 tag too, anything. So here I have mentioned the h1 tag, the paragraph 2 tag, and the paragraph 1 tag here. So let's see. I'll go to the styles and I say dot head 2 must have color brown. As you can see, first heading, second paragraph in the first heading, and the first paragraph in the heading 2, everything is changed to that color. So this is the usage of class. Most probably you have a set of items which you want to apply same styles. You would mention that under class name. The next that we'll be talking about is a descendant selector. Let's see how that works. So here I'm going to remove all the class. To illustrate this, I'm going to give a series of nested elements. So first I'm going to give a div tag. I'm going to give a paragraph tag. In that I will give this is very important information, and I will enclose this important information under a span. Alright, so I can access this information from the div ID, paragraph ID, and span. Say another p tag, and this is a very critical information. I call this as critical information, something like this. So I have two texts here. One is saying, I'll give this another head. I give it under another heading 3. Okay, so you have two texts. One is saying this is very important information, another one is telling it's a critical information. Now if I use span, say color is equal to blue, you can see both of them get affected on it. Instead of doing that, we can use a descendant selector that connects you with the parent. So under descendant you have a paragraph tag, under that you have a span tag. So let's do that. I will give div tag, a paragraph tag, and a span tag. So every tag is separated by a space, and then you say color blue. Whichever under that under that descendant will be displayed, will be affected by the rule. So if you see here, this span is under the p tag, but it is not preceded by a div tag. So when the style sheets look at this information, it goes to all the tags which has a div. It will look for a p tag, and then it will look for a span tag. It then applies a style to the content inside that. So that is how it works. So this is called a descendant selector. The next one that we are going to see is an adjacent selector. Adjacent selector will be applied to the one. So a body tag contains all these tags. So h1 is a sibling to p tag, p, and all these are sibling tags until div. Div has a child tag called p. P has a child tag called span. So this is how it works. So adjacent sibling for h1 is a paragraph tag. Adjacent sibling for div tag is this p tag. So now if I say h1 plus p tag and say color blue violet, and you can see it is applied to the immediate sibling of the tag that is mentioned before. So h1 and p are sibling. Whichever is the first paragraph tag, only that is applied. The next is general sibling selector. General sibling selector would select all the p tags under the sibling tag. So here, instead of giving a plus sign, you have to give a tilde sign. When you give a tilde sign, you can see that is applied to all the paragraph tags that is beneath the h1 tag. The next that we are going to see is grouping selectors. Grouping selectors is if you want to apply the same styles for different texts, then you can give that. For example, I have 3 headings here. h1 tag, hello 1, h2, hello 2, and h3, hello 3. Now I want all these headings to be under the same color. For that I can say h1, h2, h3. Instead of giving h1 color, h2 color, h3 color, instead of giving it separately, you can combine all of them with the comma. And I can say color. Let's come up with cadet blue. So you can see now all the headings are under the color cadet blue. This is all about selectors. Now that we are done with the selectors, we'll see how colors work. So I've already shown you one type of color, which is the keyword, but keywords cannot be used in every browser. Certain browsers which are very old might not recognize the keywords. So it is best to use a hex value or an RGB value. Let's see what are them. I'm going to remove all the styles here, and I'm going to give one tag for this, h1 tag. Even in here I'm going to remove all these details so you can see how I demonstrate this easily. Under h1 tag, the basic one was a keyword which I already shown you, green color, right? Now we'll see RGB color. Okay, RGB stands for red, green and blue. So you give that and you give a parenthesis. Inside the parenthesis you would have to give 3 values. And those 3 values ranges from 0 to 255. So here 0 means nothing, 255 means full. So if I say 0, 0, 0, that means no color. So it will be black. Now if I give 255 here, that means no red, no green, but full blue. So you can see a complete full dark blue here. Now if I want a red color, then you have to turn this one off and set R to 255. It will be red. And again green, you set the middle one to 255 and it will be full green color. If you set everything to 255, then it will be white color. Since it is white, you're not able to see. So let me make the background color black so you can see it. Now you can see the color is white. A hex value. Hex value, again a hex value ranges from, hex value starts with a hashtag and you have 2 digits for each. 00 for red, 00 for green, 00 for blue. So you have 2 digits for each. It ranges from 00 to FF. It has numbers from 0 to 9 and letters from A to F. Suppose if I remove this, you can see this black in color. You can set the last 2 digit to F to turn it blue. The same concept that you have seen there. You can make the first one FF to make it red. You can make the middle one FF to make it green. So the same concept that you have seen in RGB, you can implement that in a hex as well. So this is how hex stands for hexadecimal, by the way, I forgot to mention that. So anyway, so this is how colors in HTML works. So I will remove this H1, and like I've already shown you, you can set the background color for anything. I will go with the body tag here. So for the body tag, you can have first background color and you can set whichever color that you want. So here I will set Cadet blue. So this is called background color. You don't want background color, you want some image to be posted there. So you can do that as well. So I can say background image and remove this, and I would give URL and give the link to that image. It is right there in my folder, so I just have to mention the image name, and you can see it is all repeated because this is the size that is. So if you wanted to cover the entire screen, you can give background size and say 100% width, 100% height. And you can see it covers the entire page. If I expand it, you can see it is expanded towards the entire page, which is not looking good. So I'm going to quickly remove this. Alright, now that we are done with the background, next we'll be talking about font. To demonstrate the font size, I'm going to give a paragraph. So I have some random text pasted here, and I'm going to give all the font designs in the CSS. So I'll mention the P tag. So here you can give the font family and save it, and that will change. You can give font size. I'll give it as 12 pixels, so you can make it small, or you can give bigger like 23 and you can make it large. I will stick with 12 pixels. Sorry, I'll stick with 16 pixels. And then you can give font weight. Font weight would say how bold it has to appear. So if I give 600, you can see it is very much bolder. Now right now I'll stick with 200. And then you can give font style. You can say normal, italic, and all those sort. So if you give italic, it comes italic. The next that we are going to see is how to do text formatting with CSS. So let me start with few of them here. With the family, I'll stick this with I'll stick to normal here. First I'll give color. You can give color, you can give the text color with the property called color, and you just have to give the color name. So I'll give cadet blue here, and then you can have text align and say justify. You have a lot of other options like left, right, and whatever, but if you say justify, everything comes in a similar fashion on the left and right. So when I remove this property, you can see the difference. There is all spaces on the right. When you give that property right here, it's under the justified text formatting. The next thing that we're going to see is text decoration. So text decoration, here you can give overline, underline, line through, none, whatever you want. So default is none, so you can give line through, that means it would not be striked out. If you give underline, then it would be underlined, and overline is again the same thing, which should be on top of it. So in some languages you might have this overline concept, so that is why it is used for. Right now I'll just stick with none. The next is the text transform. In the text transform, you can say if it is uppercase or lowercase, or you want to capitalize. You can give all these information. So here I'll give capitalize. You can see all the first letter in every word is capitalized. And then you can give letter spacing. If you give 1.2, then you can see there is some space in between each and every letter in a word. The next thing that we are going to talk about is links. So let me give a link here. I'm going to create a new new file, and this I will define as links.html. Sorry, HTML head and body tags. Under the body tag, I will give a link, so a href, and I will give a link to our index.html file itself, and inside I will say go to home. So as you can see, links have different stages. So first one is the unvisited stage. So in unvisited stage, that means you have not even clicked on that link. If you have visited, so after you have clicked on it, you have gone to it, go back to it, the color changes, that means you have visited that website. The next one is hover. Hover state is when you hover the mouse over it. And the final stage is active, that is in the process of being clicked. Yes, there are so many stages when it comes to links. We'll see one by one. So here I'm going to give the link to our CSS file. href is equal to style.css. Now I'll give the style as style.css and save it. Now I'll go to style.css and we'll start giving some design to this select tag. So to do that, first I'll give the selector, open and closing parenthesis. I'll give the font size as 14 pixels. As you can see, the text is now changing. I'm going to give a background color as maybe cadet blue should be fine. Okay, now I'm going to give a property called padding, which I'll be teaching about later. But right now, just know that it creates space around the text. That is all about it. But I will go in more detail in the further tutorial. I'll talk more detail about this padding in the future. Now I'll give the text decoration. So as you can see in the links, you would have this underline by default. So in text decoration, you can go and set it to none if you don't want that. And I will set the color to white. And then you can also give some letter spacing as 1.2. That looks good. Now when I hover over it, I want some kind of animation there. So to do that, you can give the selector, you can give this colon and say hover. This is one of the state in the links, so you might have to use the colon and then you give that state whatever you want to do. Hover actually happens when you move the mouse over that. So on a hover, I want the font weight to be bolder. You can either give the number or you can give bolder as text. So when I hover the mouse over it, you can see it is getting bold. Now we can see a visited. I want the color to be a little bit grayish, so I can give RGB 127, 127, 127. So since we have already visited this page, I have already clicked on the link, it has become a little bit darker. Background color, something that suits this. So as you can see, this is a visited link, so it is changed like that. Now I'll close this website and I will open it again. Now I'll try to open this again. I'll go to here, go and open the links tab here. As you can see, initially this is a style. When I hover over it, it becomes bold. When I click on it, that means the link is visited. And now you can see it is, these rules are applied to this now. You can play with all the states in the links to make it more interactive with the user. The next that we are going to see is tables. So for that, let's create a table. So if you have seen, I have already created a table in my previous tutorial. So I'm just going to copy that. So this is a table that I have created in my previous video and I'm going to use the styles for that. I'm going to open that file right now. Tables.html. So in this tables.html, I have created two tables. One table has name and contact number, the heading on the top, and the data on the bottom, and the next table has the heading towards the left and the data towards the right. So let's see how to style this. I'll open this file using the live preview option and let's see how to style this. To style this, I'm going to, I'm creating a new window here. It's just, so I'm going to create a new file and I will save it as table style .html and inside the table, inside the head tag, I'm going to give a link. to that CSS. So linking is all done. Let's go and try to style this. So if you want to give a border for a table, usually in a table you have the lines in between, right? So for that you need to give the border. So for table, we'll give the border as 1 pixels, the size of the border. You want solid or dotted line, whichever the format that you want. So mostly we'll specify solid here, solid, and the color of it, I'll give black. Sorry. As you can see, it is covered now with a black border. Now, I want a border for my columns and rows as well. So, as you can see, we used to combine the selectors for multiple selectors with the same rules. So you can just give the TR and TD in here. So as you can see, this is like giving a border to each and every element. This is like giving border to each and every element, which is something we don't want. We want them to be combined. To do that, we can give, for table, you need to give border collapse. Collapse. When you do that, it looks just like a table. You can also remove this TD data to do something like this, so you can play around and do whichever that suits you best. Now let's also give some padding to this table. So I'm going to give TH, TD. I'm going to give some padding. So as I've said before, padding is something that creates space around the content. So I'll give 12 pixels. So now you can see you have 12 pixel space around your table. Now I'm going to teach you another property as well. So for a table, you can give margin. Margin is also similar to padding, but the difference is padding would give you space within the border, but margin would give you space around the table. So you'll see how it works. I'm going to give 12 pixels. Now you can see the table is outside the table border. You have 12 pixels space. So this is the biggest difference between margin and padding. And CSS box model is one of the important topic in CSS, because everything in CSS, every element in CSS can be considered a separate box. So box model is used for the design and presentation of an element in CSS. So let's see how box model works. So back to index.html. Here I'm going to create a box model for the paragraph element. So let's go to style.css, and here I'm going to create a box model for this paragraph. So for box model, you would need 4 elements. One is margin, border, padding, and the actual content. These are the 4 elements that comprises a box model. You have the content here already. Let's create a border for this. So I'm going to give a border, and I'm going to give 2 pixels size, solid, and the color would be black. So as you can see, the box is done. The box is created. The next is the margin. So I'll give the margin as 10 pixels. As you can see, this is a space that is around the content outside the border. Now we need to give padding 15 pixels. Now this is a space that is given inside the border. Between the content and the border is this space is the padding, and this space is the margin. So this is how you create a box model in CSS. Now with this, I conclude the CSS tutorial, CSS basics tutorial. I have covered all the basic concept in this tutorial, and in future I'm going to upload more videos on advanced HTML concepts and advanced CSS concepts and CSS preprocessors like SCSS, SAS, etc. So make sure to subscribe to my channel to watch all those videos. Thank you so much for watching. See you guys in the next video. Bye.